bring you Killer Wives, episode 50. South of the border. These are the case facts of Elizabeth Alessandro, who had her husband murdered. Isn't trust a bitch? Chiapas, Mexico, famous for the ancient Mayan ruins, stunning waterfalls, but also made famous for the murder of one Mr. Rafael Alessandro.
On Friday, July the 1st of 2022, at approximately 2:30 in the afternoon, Palenque time, Rafael Alessandro Tunisi was driving down this particular roadway, unaware that hired assassins were waiting on him in a secluded turnoff to kill him. You see, Rafael had been roped into this one particular ambush by his loving wife, who sent him to pick up two of his youngest daughters. His daughters were at the La Escriba primary school, and he was going to bring them home for dinner. Now, Rafael wouldn't get much further down the secluded road of the ambush before two off-road motorbikes would overtake him at a speed equivalent to a James Bond movie. They would chase him just like this. Now, they opened fire with fully automatic weapons until Mr. Tunisi crashed his vehicle into an off-road tree, because he was dead. Only the love of a killer wife could accomplish something like this. Tunisi's BMW was found moments later with multiple bullet entrances on that particular Friday. Now, he had almost got within walking distance of his daughter's school before he was killed. Yes, the wealthy businessman who was going to pick up his daughters was lying inside the vehicle when police officers arrived at the crime scene, followed by the Chiapas ambulance services. As paramedics tried in vain to save Rafael's life, his killers were busy making haste to an agreed-upon hiding location in the vastness of the Chiapas montane forest. The Chiapas montane forest is a tropical moist ecoregion in the southern Mexico that extends into western Guatemala. It includes the montane tropical forest on the northern and northeastern slopes of the Chiapas highlands. Various crystal blue tributaries and waterfalls in the forest empty out at the beautiful clear waters of the Tapachula, where divers bask in the beauty of tropical fish and fauna alike. Together, Chiapas and the surrounding beauty are enough to remind one of a modern-day Garden of Eden. If that is true, I would guess that instead of enjoying paradise, Mrs. Tunisi, or in this case Eve, was planning the downfall of her own home that Adam didn't see coming. But then again, why would Mr. Tunisi expect this level of betrayal from a woman that he had been married to for over 2 decades, with 3 minor children still living at home? What manner of person could risk it all for the sake of money while living in a Garden of Eden setting in the heart of the jungle? But I imagine that for those individuals who plan and execute the taking of life for cash, anything is possible.
You're watching M&N, the Men's Channel.
In the Killer Wives series, we have covered some of the most influential men in the world who gave their wives the best in life only to have them turn around and take their lives. Now, never will you see a case in this series where the husband abused his wife or the family went out without what they desired in life as far as money or home. The guys would have to cover to be featured in this series. Now, we just to show you that, as one viewer says, it matters not if the woman is at the bottom of the heap or at the top of his game. She still hates the man she has married. I mean, why else would a woman plot to kill a wealthy man she dreamed about marrying since she was a child, unless she hated men? Now, surely if a man killed his wife in similar circumstances, we would call him out for who he was, an abuser or woman hater. But for the fair sex, there is no condemnation that an excuse won't cover. And I believe this case more than any other demonstrates how sad it is to promise to love, honor, and cherish a person only to turn around and have that person slaughtered by your hands. Oftentimes in these cases, I wonder what would these men's lives be if they had not married this one particular woman, or no women at all. Would their life come to ruin this way? At least this case, I don't think so. Mr. Tunisi settled in Mexico for more than a decade before he met his killer wife-to-be. As an entrepreneur, Tunisi owned the Quintin Chanabal Boutique Hotel, located near Palenque, which is an archaeological zone, and were writing at the same time 4 books on the Mayan civilization for which he was an expert. So we're not talking about the run-of-the-mill guy. Mr. Tunisi at the time of his death was fluent in 5 different languages outside of his native Italian dialect. Now, this is hard for just about anyone else to do. Hard to believe? Well, here's just a short clip of the Italian-speaking fluent regional Spanish on a local television interview in Chiapas, Mexico.
Seguimos en estas jornadas intensas del Encuentro Internacional de Mayistas Palenque 2019 y estamos con Rafael Tunesi, quien es un investigador independiente, pero también un empresario turístico. El día de ayer Rafael nos compartía sobre quiénes eran estos misteriosos hombres que pintaban y que hacían una cerámica verdaderamente extraordinaria. Platícanos un poquito de estos personajes, Rafael.
Pues ayer hemos tratado de presentar el trabajo hecho sobre los artistas, que ya se conocía la existencia de artistas mayas, pero siempre se manejaba un poco una figura más parecida a un artesano o a un personaje que trabaja en solitario y crea algo. Y creo que hemos logrado presentar exitosamente una figura de unos artistas muy parecidos a sus colegas en otros países y en otras épocas, y en otras áreas y en otros continentes, comparando con su forma de trabajo, con los resultados de la comparación de las varias manos que trabajaban en las vasijas del estilo códice de la región de la cuenca del Mirador, pues llegando a la conclusión que se manejaba la misma forma de trabajo en equipo con un maestro específico y su círculo de otros artistas que nacían y crecían en ese ambiente, llegando a los grandes resultados que trajo el arte maya.
Tú has logrado combinar de una manera extraordinaria el turismo con la cultura.
For all intents and purposes, Mr. Tunisi was a loving father and a husband beyond his career as a hotelier. Up until a month before his murder, Tunisi still shared beautiful photos of a trip he took with one of his 3 daughters to Italy on his social networks. So this guy was heavy into social networks, his work, and his family, not just a businessman. Now, the businessman regularly uploaded photos with his wife and his family, as well as content on archaeology to promote his hotel, which was designed and inspired by an ancient Mayan palace. Now, he said of their property that our vision is to recreate, based on historical and archaeological data, an exquisite pre-Hispanic environment that allows you to fully experience the Mayan world without giving up any luxury. He's talking about an old world that predates the United States of America. Now, Tunisi was so proud of exploring and sharing the Mayan heritage that he made southern Mexico his permanent home, because he knew that this land was the birthplace of the Mayan culture. Now, the Mayan culture, or the Mesoamerican Indians, occupied a nearly continuous territory in southern Mexico, Guatemala, and northern Belize. In the early 21st century, some 30 Mayan languages were spoken by more than 5 million people, most of whom were bilingual in Spanish. So before the Spanish conquest of Mexico and Central America, the Mayans possessed one of the greatest civilizations in the Western Hemisphere to date. They practiced agriculture, built great stone buildings and pyramid temples, which you see here, worked gold and copper, and used a form of hieroglyphic writing that has now largely been deciphered. So now we know what they knew. As early as 1500 BCE, the Mayans had settled in villages and had developed agriculture based on a civilization of corn, beans, and squash. And by 600 CE, cassava was also grown. And they began to build ceremonial centers, and by 200 CE, these had developed into cities containing temples, pyramids, palaces, courts for playing ball, and plazas. Now, the ancient Mayan quarried immense quantities of building stone, usually limestone, which they cut by using harder stones such as chert. Now, they practiced mainly slash and burn agriculture, but these used advanced techniques of irrigation and terracing. Now, they also developed a system of what you call writing and highly sophisticated calendrical and astronomical system. You might have seen the Mayan calendar. The Mayan made paper from inner bark of wild fig trees and wrote their hieroglyphics on books made from this paper. And those books are called codices. The Mayans also developed an elaborate, beautiful tradition of sculpture and relief carvings, architectural works, and of stone. Inscriptions and reliefs are the chief sources of knowledge about the early Mayan culture. So Mr. Tanisi was into this. So it was that Tanisi, knowing all this rich history, chose to design his Jung Hotel after the Mayans. Tanisi's hotel had become such a focal point in ancient Mayan land that was used as part of an exclusive film location for the movie The Book of Love. And you can find that online today. Now here we give you a photo tour of the inside and outside of that Mayan-inspired design hotel by Mr. Tanisi. Before his death, the couple toured various tour sites in Chiapas such as the Lagunas del Montelo and Catazavaja, as well as archaeological sites all over Mexico. It was at one of these locations that Tanisi was inspired to send his wife a text that read, "I still love you this day as it was the first day." And that's what he said to her, and that was on February 14th, Valentine's Day. He said, "I love you, Rafa. Thank you for your love," she replied. But Tanisi did not have to move to Chiapas to discover his love for archaeology. Tanisi had been traveling with his parents his entire childhood to archaeological sites and digs. Now here's Tanisi as a young boy on ancient sites, and the following picture will be Tanisi as a young man before he went to seek his fortune in the hotel industry. After Tanisi's violent ambush, police initially believed that his death was due to Mexican gangs because of the graphic nature of the gun violence at the scene. Now, Tanisi's murder had occurred in a period of increased violence in Chiapas, a state that did not usually figure amongst the territorial disputes of drug cartels, and that has historically been marked by the agrarian and political disputes.
You're watching MNN, the Men's Channel.
just 3 hours by car from Palenque in San Cristobal, dozens of hooded men dressed in bulletproof vests and armed with assault rifles took over 5 warehouses of the city's North Market, which is the largest tourist center in that state. But as investigators went through the arduous task of eliminating suspect after suspect, they would find that Tunisi was not killed by gangs, but by the planning of someone close to his own home. And evidence would reveal that hotelier Rafael Tunisi was killed at Palenque by assassin Gerardo Antonio and Luis Martin. Additionally, they would learn that the main suspect in the planning of the murder was his wife Elizabeth, who they later accused of ordering the murder for financial reasons. And as I said before, if you're a fan of killer wives, most of these cases are for financial reasons, for the wife to enrich her own pocket. The arrests were made in the cities of Tuxtla Gutierrez and Palenque after a controlled judge issued the arrest warrants for qualified homicide. Investigation and intelligence work by Special Affairs and Homicide Prosecutors Office at that time and the Selva District prosecutors located and handled these particular people. Now, the hotelier's wife, although accused of the planning of the murder of her husband, has yet to go on trial, but we will keep you up to date when she does. For Killer Wives, this is Charles Rivers. We thank you for watching.
Until next time.